For more on what's happening in Europe, Rickards, Senior Managing Director at Tangent Capital and author of the national bestseller Currency Wars, The Making of the Next Global Financial Crisis. And I just found out it's also available in Mandarin as well. Welcome to BizAsia America. The title of the book is quite interesting, The Currency Wars, The Making of the Next Global Crisis. I just want to ask, are we done with the last crisis yet?
Well, we're done with the sort of the panic of 2008, but we're heading for another crisis, probably the collapse of the international monetary system. And that's not meant to be a provocative statement. The international monetary system has collapsed 3 times in the past 100 years, 1914, 1939, and 1971. So it's probably heading for another collapse in the next 3 or 4 years.
What does this collapse, what does it look like?
It mainly plays out in a sort of a repudiation or loss of confidence in the dollar. The dollar is the major reserve currency. 60% of global reserves are in the dollar. We see China acquiring gold. We see Russia acquiring gold. Russia has increased its gold reserves 50% in the last 4 years. China officially has doubled theirs, but probably unofficially has perhaps as much as 3,000 tons, according to various sources. So, Germany's getting their gold back from New York. So we're seeing the slow motion remonetization of gold. That's a loss of confidence in the dollar.
Okay. This leads me to the other point, which is very controversial, which we talk about this among our small groups sometimes and have some very heated debates. What's money even worth? What is the dollar worth? What's the euro worth? What's the yen worth? On and on. Isn't a currency only worth what people think it's worth? I mean, ultimately, it's about confidence. It's not backed by anything specifically. Am I correct?
Well, you're exactly right, Philip. It's about confidence. But if you have a sound monetary policy, as the United States did in the 80s and the 90s, that confidence is high. But when the Fed has taken their balance sheet from $800 billion in 2008 to $3 trillion today. It's on its way to $5 trillion by the end of 2015. That's what causes a loss of confidence. And it's not just Americans, it's around the world. The BRICS just had their summit. BRIC nations just had their summit in South Africa. And there are plans underway among China, Russia, Brazil, India, and South Africa to create their own development bank, their own reserve fund. These are steps in the direction of getting rid of the dollar.
Doing their own thing, essentially.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Let me talk about one situation that's happening right now, the ECB. Mm-hmm. They are somewhat in the middle of their crisis, although it seems to have settled down. They've got a meeting coming up. The bulls will argue that the rates should remain low. The economy isn't that bad because it hasn't really necessarily tanked. But then again, that goes into question of the strength of the euro, because as the euro gets stronger, many countries don't like that because it makes their exports more expensive.
Right.
Do you think the euro is even fairly priced as it is today?
I think the euro is pretty fairly priced, but it's going to get stronger. The euro is probably going to be the strongest currency in the world. The idea that you cheapen your currency to promote exports is a myth. The way you promote exports is with innovation, technology, good labor management relations. Look at Germany. They've had a strong currency for 50 years, and they've always been an export powerhouse. They have a strong euro today, but SAP, Volkswagen, Daimler, these are all, as I say, export powerhouses. Japan in the 80s had a strong currency. They were an export powerhouse. You create exports with good products, not with a cheap currency.
I could have a fairly good discussion with you because I think that is the old-fashioned way and probably the right way, but it doesn't seem to be a case with what the U.S. is doing, what the yen is doing. I mean, I don't know about different countries, but everyone seems to want a lower currency. Right. I want to talk about one thing. You mentioned the crisis that's coming up. Without going in great detail, is there a way to avoid this crisis that you're talking about? I'm sure you've been asked this before.
Sure. One way to avoid it is to allocate, I recommend between 10 and 20% of your portfolio to gold. Gold will survive any collapse of paper money. I don't recommend 100%, but if you have $1 million, have 100,000 in gold. If you have $100,000 in savings, put 10,000 in gold.
Okay, but for my producer, Alex, for example, who's listening,
yeah,
and I tell her this crisis is coming, what is she going to do?
You have some gold, and that'll protect your portfolio. Actually, I did an interview the other day. A lady said, I'm a nurse's aide. I don't have any savings. What can I do? I said, just buy one gold coin, put it away, and your savings will be protected.
All right, I'll tell her to do that.
Okay.
Rickards, thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip.
Again, author of The Currency Wars.